Hey everyone, Katie Scoot with Simple Life Pattern Company. Today we are going to be completing our Piper sew along, starting with step 19. While you're here, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Simple Life Patterns, and you can shop our website at thesimpelelifecompany.com.
We're going to go ahead and start with step 19, and this is for the top version only. We're going to go ahead and hem the top, and then you'll be done. Yay! So you're going to go ahead and take the hem and fold it up a ½ inch, press, fold an additional ½ inch, and press. You will then top stitch your entire hem around the bottom of your top, 3/8 of an inch from the folded edge. Once you are done with that, the top version is done. If you are following along for the dress or the maxi version, whether it's the rectangle skirt or the high-low skirt, like I am doing right here, it will be the same. You're going to go ahead and sew and serge along your two side seams right here. You will then do the same thing we did for the top. You'll fold it up a ½ inch, fold up your hem a ½ inch, press, fold an additional ½ inch, and press. You will then top stitch 3/8 of an inch from the edge. Go ahead and give the hem and everything a nice good press. We are going to go to step 22 now, and I like to turn my skirt right side out when I do this. We're going to sew a gathering stitch. Let me turn it that way. You're going to sew a gathering stitch. I like to start from one of the side seams and go all the way around, and I sew about a ½ inch from the raw edge. You can sew 2 lines of basting stitches for a little bit nicer of a gather, or you can use your machine. I like to use the tension. I put it at a high tension and the longest stitch length. Whichever way you like to do is totally up to you. I'm going to go sew a gathering stitch along the top of my skirt. Okay, I have sewn my gathering stitch along the top of my skirt pieces, and I'm just going to kind of grab my bobbin threads here, and I'm going to adjust the gathers so that they are the same width as my bodice. And remember, we have a lot of that extra width in the back, so I'm going to kind of measure to it's right there, from the edge of this counter to right there, and I just grab them and kind of just start adjusting like that. Just pull them. We'll adjust the gathers in a little bit. I just like to get the width right first. Once you have your skirt gathered to about the same width as your bodice, flip your skirt over, making sure that your right sides are together, and match up the side seam of your skirt with the side seam of your bodice, and go ahead and give it a pin. I like to do this on each side. Once I have the side seams pinned, we are going to go ahead and start adjusting the gathers. Remember, we have this elastic in the back, so we need to make sure that everything is all of our gathers are distributed evenly, and the front and the back skirts match the front and the back bodice. So go ahead and adjust and pin as you go. Just a reminder, make sure when you are pinning your skirt to your bodice that you are pinning the front part of your skirt for the high-low to the front part of your bodice. I just attached mine backwards, and we don't want a long skirt in the front and a short skirt or a short portion of it in the back. So be sure you check that out before you start sewing or pinning. Okay, I have my skirt pinned to my bodice. I'm going to go to my serger and serge around this edge. I want this to be finished because afterwards we're going to sew a little bit farther down and create our casings. So nice finished edge on this portion is a good idea. If you don't have a serger, go ahead and use a zigzag stitch along the edge and just clean it up so you don't have all those strings hanging around. So I'll be right back. In step 23, I went ahead and serged around the edge of my fabric. I am going to go ahead and sew in 5/8 of an inch now. I have a 5 thread which normally sews and serge, but it's just not quite the length or the depth that we need for our casing. So go ahead and sew around this edge of your skirt 5/8 of an inch from your serged or raw edge. Okay, we just completed step 23. We are going to go to step 24 now, which is we are going to, from the right side of our dress, we're going to take this skirt and bodice seam that we just sewn, and we're going to flip it up towards the neckline. So this seam right here, and we are going to stitch it a 1/2 inch from the edge. So that means you should have about 1/8 of an inch of seam right there to catch. So make sure that your seam is pressed or pushed up really well so you can sew a 1/2 inch above this line. That gives you a 1/2 inch casing for your 1/4 inch elastic. When you're sewing this, you need to leave about a 1 to 2 inch opening so we can insert the elastic through the inside. So I sew from the outside. So I'm gonna start probably 1.5 inches or so back from this side seam, and I'm gonna sew all the way around to 1.5 inches or so from where I started, leaving that little gap open. I don't like to do it right on a seam because it gets really bulky and it's really hard to get through there. So I like to have a little extra space where I start and stop. So about right here on the back is where I'm gonna start and stop. I'll be right back. I have sewn around the bodice with my top stitching. I used a slightly longer stitch length. I use a 3.0 whenever I'm doing any sort of top stitching. It just looks a little bit nicer. I left my little 1 inch opening right here. So we're going to turn our dress wrong side out and go to where the opening is. And you can see it's right here. I'm going to attach a safety pin to the edge of my elastic, just like so. And I am going to start threading it all the way through. I'll start right here and I'm going to go all the way around the bodice. If you're worried about this slipping through, you can always put another safety pin in there so that way it kind of catches so you don't accidentally pull it all the way through. So let's go ahead. So once you have your elastic pulled all the way through, go ahead and take the safety pin off. Be sure that you didn't twist any of your elastic. There's nothing worse than a twisted elastic seam. So go ahead and take your elastic pieces and overlap them by a 1/2 inch. You can then go to your sewing machine and use a zigzag stitch and sew the two pieces together. You just lay one on top of the other, just like that, and sew a zigzag. I'll be right back. Okay, I have inserted my elastic and I kind of adjusted it. I just kind of like to give it a little pull, and be careful though so you don't pop any stitches. Just try to make sure that the elastic's in there evenly and that all the fabric's just kind of distributed evenly. So we have this little opening that we left and you can really see where it's at. So you have to go close that using your 1/2 inch from the edge. Go and sew that 1 or 2 inches that you left open, and then you will be done with your dress.